Confessions of a Bride-to-Be. It took us 2 years to finally get here, and now it's finally the week before the wedding. We refrain from contact, no hugs, no touch, no calls, no kiss. Only the moment of now until the moment we commence, where we're given the time to wonder and miss. And I have a confession. The week of the wedding, I cried. I imagined most brides-to-be wouldn't have been as hysterical as me. I imagined most brides-to-be would have been overjoyed with excitement and certainty. But not I, not me. What was once a fever high of delight slowly simmered into a steady panic and fright. Would I be a good wife? And a couple of days before the I-do's, I was mourning the woman I would leave behind. I would miss her, and I was terrified at the same time. Would I be a good wife? I know they say happy wife, happy life, but what about happy spouse, happy house? Will I lose my identity? Will they look at me as just another man's property? Is it okay to feel like this? Why do I feel guilty for feeling like this? And the more I cried. You always hear those stories, the stories about those men who do everything to get the woman to change. Then once he married her, he changed, as if the placement of the ring sheds his mask on the outside, revealing the truth and realizing he married Mr. Hyde. And I cried. Could that be him? Could he take me by surprise? No, lies, lies, not him, not my guy. All fear ravaging my mind, but you hear those stories. The stories about the married men that have the woman on the side. And the more I thought, the more I cried. On the day of the wedding, there were no more tears, just adrenaline. The thoughts had washed away along with the fears, just adrenaline. I laughed with my beautiful bridesmaids. There was a lot of laughter. I remember chocolate and champagne. I remember my mother-in-law swooning at her new daughter, which I would become in a few moments at the altar. I remember the room full of women helping me into my once-in-a-lifetime dress as they laced each loop of my corset up with grace and finesse. And my mother placed my veil with her tender hands. I remember her smile being more than grand, and I know she cried. She cried like I cried the days before, but not for my reasons why, but for her own reasons why. She cried. I looked in the mirror in full bloom of the woman I was to be, my bouquet of lilies just as vibrant and in bloom as me, and I smiled. I was going to be a good wife. Moments before the I-do's, my father takes his first look at me. I could tell it was hard for him to see his little girl, his baby, a grown woman now dressed as a beautiful bride, when all he can remember is how we practiced pitching on the summer days we were outside, or how when I was 3, I would say Tasty LeBorn every time I wanted more ice cream. And in a few moments, he was giving me away. And I know he cried, because he dreaded for this day of all days, the day he would give his daughter away. And that alone would make any father cry. And I know he cried. He cried like I cried the days before, but not for my reasons why, but for his own reasons why. He cried. And then he grabbed me by the hand. It was time to walk me down the aisle. Seconds before walking down the aisle, again, panic and fear whittled at my joy, my heart palpitating, my breathing becoming labored and void, as if I was walking down to judgment to learn my fate. My father passed the arm I hooked onto his. It is a tender pat, the kind of pat a father gives his daughter when she gets a boo-boo or a scratch. I remember those tender pats. Are you ready? Asked my wedding planner. Yes. The doors of judgment opened for me to learn my fate, but it was not judgment, it was grace. And every ounce of panic and fear withered away, flying away with the birds the moment I saw his face. And he cried. He cried like I cried the days before, but not for my reasons why, but for his own reasons why. He cried. And I hurried down the aisle with excitement and certainty as I thought, he's never given me a reason to question him once, so why question him now? He's standing at the end of the aisle ready to speak his vows. There stood this beautiful black man, unafraid to show his emotions, this beautiful black king who has chosen to love me openly without dragging me through the trenches, without pitting me against other competition, just to see if I was worthy of his love, but instead gave it to me freely, because even when I didn't think so, he found me worthy. And all those fear-driven thoughts were remnants of leftover traumas from my past, being constantly told I was never good enough. So even in the moment of bliss, I questioned myself mad. But seeing him had me in a fever high of delight, and I wanted to just hold him and tell him I love him and I will be a good wife.